On today's Two on Your Side Town Hall, the state of Western New York restaurants. We're going to take a look at what the closings of two longtime hangouts in Buffalo mean for the industry as a whole.
Plus, a dive into the growing trend of hospitalizations in Western New York and in other areas where it's much, much worse.
And we'll answer some of your vaccine mandate questions, including whether refusing to get vaccinated can get someone discharged from the military. And we thank you for being here, everybody. I'm Michael Wooten.
And I'm Kate Welshofer. Over the last day, by far the most read story on WGRZ.com has been that announcement that two longtime Main Street restaurants are closing for good.
Yeah, it got us thinking about the impact of the pandemic on the local restaurant scene, and we're going to discuss the industry overall coming up in just a moment. First, though, we have Two on Your Side's Kelly Dudzik live in our newsroom right now with reaction to Kelly, I think these two closings that surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, I think they caught some people off guard, Kate and Michael. The Steer Restaurant and Saloon and the Lake Effect Diner in Buffalo's University Heights neighborhood are the latest restaurants to not survive the pandemic. I talked with owner Tucker Curtin briefly on the phone this morning. He told me he's dealing with a staffing shortage. Last night, he confirmed to Two on Your Side the decision to close came after pandemic hardships, citing staffing shortages and supply chain issues. The Lake Effect Diner is already closed. The Steer will close tonight. They were busy setting up for one last banquet there today. We spoke with a longtime employee who found out yesterday when the owner called him. He says it was emotional.
That really crushed us because we had a lot of things going on at that time. We had a brunch thing, and now we had to let that go because of COVID-19, and it just trending over to this year. And it's just a lot of businesses, lost out on this situation. So it's very hard.
Has 9 years of experience with the Steer, so he's going to take a couple days off and get back out there and find a new job. Both restaurants will be put on the market. Lake Effect was open for 19 years. The Steer is closing tonight after 28 years. Kate and Michael.
Yeah, they really are staples. Kelly Dudzik reporting live in the newsroom. Kelly, thank you.
We want to talk about the wider picture here in Western New York with Tracy Drury, who covers restaurants for our partners over at Buffalo Business First. Tracy, thanks so much for chatting with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So those closures set off really a big discussion in our newsroom this morning with folks kind of talking about all of the restaurants that have closed. But at the same time, this is already a volatile industry, right? This is something that we really see happen even outside of a pandemic. So based on what you've seen, how hard do you think Western New York has been hit overall in terms of these restaurants closing during the pandemic?
You know, it really varies. I'm hearing a lot of longtime operators who know what they're doing, and they've got a solid financial base, and yet they're still struggling. The Steer and Lake Effect were a great example of that. This is somebody that's been in the business through a lot of up and downs and just finally hit a wall. So we see a lot of longtime businesses as well as some of the newer ones that are struggling to deal with some of these challenges.
And the reason the owner gave for those closings at the Steer and at Lake Effect was a lack of staffing. And that's something that we hear a lot from restaurant owners around here. In your reporting, have you gotten any sense of why that's the case?
Well, I think everyone is just really trying to hang on to people. You know, working in a restaurant is a tough job. It's hot. You don't get as many breaks maybe as you'd like. You're hustling. And there are plenty of other jobs out there right now that you can make more money for easier working conditions. So I think that's definitely part of it. The higher minimum wage offers in some other retail settings can make a difference. And if somebody is looking for something that's not quite as tough, they may look to those other options. And that's one of the things that people like Tucker Curtin are saying. They're losing people, great workers, who are just finding other opportunities in industries that maybe just aren't as tough.
Yeah, the labor market right now, we know that there are all of these shortages, but it's also just super competitive. That's why you can drive down and see places that maybe used to offer minimum wage now going well and above that. At the same time, though, Tracy, that we're seeing these restaurants closing, you know, we had you on the town hall not too long ago talking about all of the restaurants that were opening. At the time, we were talking about Mexican restaurants, but I think this really does kind of apply to a lot of different genres. How do you kind of make sense of those two things? And are we seeing just as many open as we're seeing close?
Well, we're certainly seeing a ton of new restaurants opening, but we've also seen some restaurants that were in business a long time that closed during the pandemic and are now starting to come back. I think some of those situations, they've got longtime loyal staff that they can find. For the new operators, that's definitely a challenge. We've heard of a handful of places that were planning to open this summer and just had to put those new establishments on hold, really because of the staffing issue. So yes, some new places have managed to open. Some of them have opened with more limited seating, or maybe they're only offering dinner instead of lunch and dinner. And they're trying to just stick it out until things get a little better. You may have read about what happened in Lewiston with an operator there with 3 restaurants. He had to close one to staff another one. So they're juggling staff all over the place as best they can, the new ones and the established ones.
Everyone trying to find their way here. Do you see any sort of trend in the restaurants that are starting out or the ones that are succeeding now? I'm kind of thinking about, farm to table places, for example, may have closer relationships with their suppliers, or if a restaurant has a big outdoor area, those are kinds of places that may be better equipped to thrive in this current environment. Does that seem to be the case?
Well, it really depends. Having a good supply and a good supply chain, maybe being able to find better prices is one half of the issue, but that doesn't really address the staffing. You can have some places with indoor, outdoor, both, one or the other. Some may have put their indoor seating on hold for the summer just to keep people outside. People like to be outside in the summer, but that doesn't seem to have much of an impact when it comes to staffing. We'll have to see what happens now when the weather turns as well, as more people go inside, if the virus rates change, how these things are going to continue to impact these restaurants.
Yeah, and what type of financial assistance they'll continue to get from the governor. Tracy, we wanted to lead the newscast with this segment today. Number one, because as we mentioned, it's the #1 story on our website right now, these 2 restaurants closing, and it's not even close. But beyond that, we do surveys and we read polls and we know what people care about. And restaurants and going out to eat always ranks right near the very top in terms of what people like to do, what they like to spend their money on. And it's especially the case here in Western New York. We're so lucky with so many awesome restaurants. So at the end of the day, at what point do you think we start to get back to normal just out of necessity, because there is just the incredible demand that's here local?
That's a great question. I wish I had an answer for that one. When do we get back to normal, and what does normal even mean anymore? I think so many of these restaurants have changed their menus. They've changed their staffing models. They've certainly scaled up when it comes to incentives for new employees and different pay scales and bonuses. It's a tough industry to begin with. So we'll have to see as we move forward what happens next.
We've been chatting with Tracy Drury with Buffalo Business First. Tracy, thanks again for your expertise. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.
And coming up on the Town Hall tonight, a look at the spike in hospitalizations that's getting to critical levels in some parts of the country and answers about the Delta variant.
There's still a lot ahead here at 5:30 tonight. We'll be back after this quick break.